Hey everybody, welcome back to Studio HFL. I'm Larry Powell, your host for this podcast. I'm glad you're back for another interview. So Studio HFL, by the way, HFL for trumpet players is...
Higher, faster, louder.
Yeah, bingo, you got it. So welcoming Alan Miller to today's podcast. And Alan, would like to start by saying how much I've enjoyed your playing personally over the last 30 years here that I've been in Indianapolis.
Well, thank you.
And
mutual feeling.
Well, thank you. And making music side by side has been fun.
Absolutely.
I'd like to start by asking you to tell us where you are currently, both in teaching and playing, and we'll go from there.
Okay. Currently, I teach trumpet at Butler University, and also for IUPUI, I have. They don't really have a music program there that has performance majors or anything like that, but they have a music engineering program and music therapy now. And so a lot of the students there actually aren't really music majors, but they enjoy playing the trumpet. And so I teach a few students from there, usually 2 or 3 a semester. And playing-wise, I play a lot with the Indianapolis Symphony Orchestra. I'll be playing assistant principal third trumpet this season primarily, and but I've played every part over time, and I've been doing that for quite a long time. I also perform frequently with the Indianapolis Chamber Orchestra. I do quite a bit of recording work, pretty regular basis, almost every week. And I play a variety of other gigs, church gigs, pickup orchestra things, even top 40 bands or wedding bands, I've had the good fortune of playing with many famous artists. Like about a little over a year ago, unfortunately, Aretha Franklin just passed, but I played lead trumpet for her 2 times last year, which was a great experience. And last year I played also for Johnny Mathis. And I don't do as much of that as I used to do since I'm busier with the orchestra. But
that symphony schedule, because the ISO is a full-time orchestra,
mm-hmm.
And several added services during the summertime, it keeps you pretty busy.
It absolutely does. It's a wide variety of things. There's a lot of Pops weeks. Jack Everly does a terrific job with the Pops here, and so there's usually at least one Pops every week, every month, and then going between that and who knows what else, could be coming up for Conrad and the other guys in the section sometimes, and maybe for me this season, it'll involve natural trumpet,
mm-hmm.
Which isn't exactly the easiest double in the world to do when you are doing something completely different, maybe later on that program.
Mm-hmm.
But it's all great. It's all fun. I enjoy. It's one of the things I think that appeals to me about the trumpet is being able to play a wide variety of music. It's always been that way for me.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk about natural trumpet for a second. Have you had any prior experience?
Not really. No, not a lot. I've played a little bit on one, but never actually prepared a piece and performed it or anything on a natural trumpet.
So this is kind of cool because you're going to have to embrace the possibility.
Oh yeah, and that's fine with me. I feel like I started playing the trumpet a little over 50 years ago. As a matter of fact, probably 50 years ago this summer. But I feel like I'm still learning to play the trumpet,
mm-hmm.
and have been for over 50 years because I think I started learning to play the trumpet when I heard the trumpet players before that time. So
let's start there then.
Mm-hmm.
50 years ago,
mm-hmm.
high school band or middle school band? What grade? What age?
Yeah, so there was one band director in Greenwood at the time where I grew up. Okay, so, and he had the junior high and high school were in the same building at the time, and then there were 3 elementary schools. The band program started in the summertime. We had either 4 or 6 weeks. It's pretty fuzzy, but we had 4 or 6 weeks of summer band where beginners began, and then when school started, our band director was a trumpet player. His name was David Van Velde, and he would come around to the elementary schools before school in the morning, probably 2 or 3 days a week. I'm not sure, but it was a mixed group. I don't know. There were probably 10 or 15 of us. I don't recall for sure. There were 10 or 15 of us in the mixed group, and we would have band before school in the morning, and that's how I got started. And then the next year, so that was the summer before my 6th grade year. And the next year, I was at the junior high, and the junior high and high school were still together. So it was a pretty crowded school at the time. But it was nice because I was around all the older players in the school, and I got to hear there were some really terrific players there. And so I got to hear a lot of good playing. And Mr. Van Velde always encouraged older students to help younger students because he was pretty busy, I think, But everybody felt like they were a part of it, I think. And so I was blessed to have some terrific band directors, starting with Mr. Van Velde. And so anyway, that's how it
Had you had any music experience prior to that either?
No, my parents, neither one had any musical experience or anything. And I didn't really, except for in elementary school, we played recorder and sang and things like that. So
something.
Something, yeah. They had good music classes at school, and and at church we would sing hymns and sing in Sunday school and that sort of thing. So I think, I think I learned a lot. I think, having a hymnal in front of you when you went to church and being able to see the 4 parts and stuff like that was very important. I play a lot in a lot of different churches now, and that's frequently not the case anymore.
I think, you mentioned that, and I think back to how I started, and it wasn't just right on trumpet, and I did have piano prior to that for a few years. But growing up in a church where you had to crack open the hymnal, and whether you could read the notes at the beginning or not, you learned pacing, and you were doing ear training, whether you could call it that at that point or not.
You were.
And the importance of that, standing next to people who are also singing. Now, that could mean that you also learn to sing poorly, because if the person standing next to you is not that great. But I think there's such a value in that doesn't seem like that happens anymore, that those
not as much. I
exposure.
Agree. It doesn't happen as much. And the other thing that I was fortunate about was in the 60s, there were a lot of famous trumpet players that were on television.
We're talking 1960s, right?
1960s, right. 1960s, right.
Not the 1860s.
And not the 1860s. I'm not quite that old, but almost. But there was television, black and white mostly, but we had to go
3 channels.
We had to go, 3 or 4 channels, and then we had to go across the street to see the color television when Batman was on. So, but anyway, so I heard like players like Al Hirt and Louis Armstrong, and I think that's, I don't know, that's probably why I wanted to play the trumpet. Hearing those guys, I remember, I think it must have been about the time I started, maybe just before, I think it was the 2nd Super Bowl, maybe. The Packers were playing the Raiders. It could have been the first one. Again, it's 50 years ago, so forgive me if I'm incorrect with this. but the halftime show featured Al Hirt and Doc Severinson playing with some college band, and they played solos back and forth. And I remember thinking, wow, that guy's almost as good as almost as good as Al Hirt, or maybe better than Al Hirt.
And it was Doc.
It was Doc, but I never heard Doc before because I didn't stay up late to watch The Tonight Show when I was 10, or, so anyway, and just a few years later, I found out how great Doc was too. And I realized how great he was then, but it was like, I was thoroughly impressed that there was someone who could play as well as Al Hirt. But all those guys, and like I said, my parents didn't have any musical background, but and they didn't ever need to encourage me to practice.
You had that motivation.
I always was motivated to practice. I wanted to play well from the very beginning. I was pretty naive about a lot of things because I didn't have for a long time actually, but they never asked me to stop practicing either, and they never. And we had they have 5 kids. I was the middle one, so and we lived in a 3-bedroom ranch house, and so everyone put up with me making a lot of sound.
I realized you didn't call it music right then. You said just sound.
Well, I don't know how it sounded.
Did you have things pretty well put together? Did your band director help you get a good foundation with the embouchure and breathing?
As far as I know, I think I never. I maybe had to make some minor changes later on, but maybe that happened because of an injury or something like that that I had in high school. But I was set up pretty much in the middle and everything, I think I sort of developed a natural vibrato because of the players I was listening to, and had heard. And so I started taking lessons with a gentleman named Merrill Henry. And Merrill...
Is this high school?
This was maybe 8th, 9th, 10th grade, around there. And Merrill had been cornetist with the Goldman Band, and he was roommates with Nilo Hovey, the guy that wrote the clarinet Bellman book. We started in the Bellman books back then, and he thought any wavering in the tone was a mistake, and he would, in my lessons, he would actually keep a tick sheet, and anytime I made a mistake and a wavering of my tone was a mistake, he would write a tick down. And at first I had quite a few ticks, and later I could get so I could really control what I was doing, and I could have a straight sound, and I could still produce vibrato if I needed to. So,
why do you think he did that? What do you think his school of thought was on keeping that?
Well, I think maybe he did it intentionally with me because he heard that my vibrato was too much and wasn't going to work in every situation. It could be that the actual style for those bands was very little to no vibrato, and I think that may be the case. He also played clarinet and some other instruments, saxophone. He played a lot of instruments, and which wouldn't necessarily use vibrato. He wasn't the biggest fan of jazz in the world, so which my band directors generally were. They were Herman Knoll came after my sophomore year, and he was also a trumpet player. Went on to become one of the bosses at Hal Leonard Publishing Corporation, and great band director and really sharp individual,
So your private teacher at this point, is his, now that you can look back at it, is his teaching style more of he played it for you and you played back, or you played together, or did he play it all during
he played a little bit. He didn't play a lot for me. And we used the Arbin book. He taught me a lot about reading music because, like I said, I didn't really have much experience prior to the trumpet. And I actually took organ lessons with his wife. She was my elementary music teacher. And so I would go down to their house. They lived in Franklin, and my mom would take me down there, and I'd have an organ lesson and I'd have a trumpet lesson. So then after that, I had some lessons. I had some lessons with Paul Hilgeman. Paul was the second trumpet in the ISO at that point, and he had a schedule similar to mine now. So and back then, communication was a lot more limited. So and he taught here at University of Indianapolis when it was Indiana Central College. And so I had some lessons with him here, but his schedule was real irregular, and so it was kind of hard to schedule with him. And
what did he have you focus on?
He had me focus on some musical types of playing, and he played quite a bit for me. So I got to hear some really good playing, at the time. So that was mostly the fact. I didn't have that many lessons with him, and he just kind of continued with some Arbin things and that sort of thing, and his lessons would sort of pick out an individual thing. Well, that phrase sounded nice, and he would help me, make it better or something like that. I had some lessons with Delbert Dale, but Delbert taught on the north side of Indianapolis, which seemed like it was an eternity away from Greenwood at the time. And for my parents, we weren't wealthy by any means, so getting up to lessons like that wasn't always possible.
It's a big task.
It was, at the time. So, and Delbert worked on buzzing my lips and being able to buzz higher, and he wasn't able to play at the time. Unfortunately, he had already gone through his.
He had a stroke.
At that point he got Bell's palsy like about the time I started in 1968, around there, and he found out he had inherited kidney disease, and he never really recovered from the Bell's palsy. So he went from being the busiest freelancer in town and a virtuoso player to never being able to play again. He worked very hard. He had a music store called Musical Arts Studio, and he had really good teachers there. I think Jim Edison and Ron, I can't think of his name, taught there.
But his legacy, even when I moved to Indiana in 1988, 89,
right.
Delbert Dale was still a name that was really well known.
Absolutely.
And, I think that speaks to, even though he couldn't play, what I gathered now I'm gathering here is that his influence was still there.
His students always sounded great. I went to high school with one of the students, Dennis Young, who had a beautiful sound. The legacy, if you look at Dan Ross and Bob Wood, they were peas in a pod. They both beautiful sound, both great trumpet players. Terry Avigleben was a student of Delbert. He had a magic about him. He could somehow communicate to students how to sound, because his students, even though they never heard him play, they sounded, you could tell their sound was Delbert's sound. And I don't know if I'll ever understand how he did that.
Right. So you'd mentioned early on, though, as far as you're listening to Hirt and Doc Severinson, that had to start to expand.
Mm-hmm.
Who now are you listening to intentionally?
So in high school, like a neighbor gave me a Rafael Mendez CD, a record. We didn't have CDs, and we had cassette tapes and records at the time. So I got, let's see, my parents bought me a recording called Tootie's Trumpets, which is an amazing recording of big band playing. It had Conrad Gazzo and Jan Racy and Pete Candoli, Manny Klein, some really terrific players, and I mean the style was a little cheesy sometimes, but amazing playing on that recording. I got a cassette recorder, and I had some cassettes. I got a cassette of some players playing like Baroque trumpet concertos and classical concertos. Some of the really screaming things like the Michael Haydn and the Richter and different things like that. And the Telemann was on there, I think. And I got some Maurice Andre recordings. And in high school, all the big bands were still on the road. So I heard, in high school and college, I heard almost all the big bands live and on recordings. There was no orchestra in high school, so my first experience with an orchestra was when I got to college at Indiana State. I was studying with Dalvin Boone. He was a terrific teacher for me, and because, like I say, I was pretty naive. I had gone to school with in high school, like one of my classmates studied with Bill Adam, and like another, Dennis was the one I was speaking of earlier, studied a lot with Delbert. And so I've always learned a lot from the players I'm around. And fortunately, I've been around a lot of really fine players. In high school, there were some older players that I think were terrific examples of how to play. And then in college, the same thing. I mean, Dalvin had Jim Ketch, who teaches at North Carolina, had just been through there, and he lives there, so he would come back in the summertime, and we played some recitals in the summertime. And there's some just other kids around. John Ellis, who teaches in Ithaca, maybe, or Crane, someplace in New York, or did teach there. Was there for a while, and he transferred to the University of Illinois. But Dalvin had, sorry, I got away from who were influencing I was listening to. But I listened to, I'll get back to that. So I listened to a lot of the guys who played with the big bands, okay? And like I say, I didn't, in high school, I didn't really have that much experience listening to orchestras. Some of the band directors did take us to hear symphony concerts from time to time, and the Indianapolis Symphony used to play at the mall in Greenwood every year. So I heard that, but and actually I heard Woody Herman's band at the mall with Bill Chase playing lead trumpet. Yeah, I mean, just kind of a random thing, but but I heard a lot of things like that. So
what's your focus during all this? Have you delved into any kind of improv, or had you thought about, boy, I really want to go towards a commercial style of playing, or I want to do a classical style of playing, or were you just kind of everything?
I just love playing the trumpet, and and like so like I said, my band directors liked the jazz big bands of the time that were traveling, and actually my freshman year it was even called stage band, not even jazz ensemble or anything. And then later there was more jazz influence. I really didn't I really didn't understand improvisation very much. I mean,
who does?
Well, I'm not sure. There are a few. I have some students who do terrifically well at it, but at that point, I really didn't. I didn't get it. When I got to college and I started to get more involved, I heard recordings of the Chicago Symphony and the Philadelphia Orchestra and the Cleveland Symphony and the New York Philharmonic and everything else, and then on the jazz side, I started to listen to Clifford Brown and Clark Terry and Dizzy Gillespie and and so it was just like, it was amazing in that time, being able to hear a lot of those people live. And the Trumpet Guild started about that time too, and I joined like within the first or second year. I was in the Trumpet Guild. One of the early conferences was at University of Illinois, and so John Ellis, who I referred to earlier, had transferred to Illinois, and he was hosting several of the guests for the conference. But I got to hear, and I heard Dizzy Gillespie play live a few times, but I got to hear Dizzy at that conference, and I got to hear Marvin Stamm and several others. A natural trumpet player who was terrific. It was just like a kid in a candy shop, hearing all these great players. And then, let's see. So the second, getting back to how I got into orchestra kind of things. So like the orchestra at school needed another trumpet player. So John Ellis was playing in it, and so he recommended that they have me play in the orchestra. So I went and played in the orchestra. And the first thing I ever played was España, the Chabrier España, and it's an F trumpet part. And I hadn't really transposed. I had done a little transcription and stuff like that. And when you were dealing with cassettes and records, things weren't always in the same key. So
right, because they would speed it up or slow it down to make it fit the
right.
The
so I had transcribed the Telemann concerto from a recording that I had, and I had written it in an E flat concert. So I figured out how to play it on the B flat trumpet, because I had no idea what a piccolo trumpet was. I'm not sure it sounded very good, but but it was a good ear training kind of thing too. And by the way, I think one of the turning points in high school was getting a cassette recorder, because I could record myself and hear myself play back, and I think that was a vital part of a major improvement in my playing. So anyway, so I played with the orchestra then.
Did that go well? That España?
Oh yeah, I think so.
But you had to learn to transpose.
Actually, John just said, "Oh yeah, this is an F trumpet part, so just think up 2 lines or 2 spaces." And I said, "Okay." So the next rehearsal, I could do it. I mean, I don't know. So that was, like I say, my first experience with transposition, really, that I recall. So then, and I was when I came in, I had no idea what to expect or anything, getting to school. And I played first trumpet in the second band. And,
this is still at Indiana State.
Yeah. And I played, but I wanted to be involved in as much as possible. I played third trumpet, and somehow, actually, I won the jazz chair in the jazz ensemble, the top jazz ensemble, which is I don't understand, but anyway, I did that I played third trumpet in the top jazz ensemble and played the solos, then for that year, so my freshman year, I feel like I made a lot of improvement in the summer following, just because I was exposed to so much more with the orchestra and so and studying with Dalvin. He was a terrific teacher for me. We worked on. He started me on the Conconi Studies, the Reinhardt Conconi Studies, which is a nice book because of its progression and so forth. So I learned more about how to phrase and just, nice playing.
Those are great books, too, for transposition.
They are.
Because
they're
of the simplistic melodies.
Right, we did some of that, too. We used the Colon Lip Flexibilities book and the Voxman Selected Studies quite a bit. And I played a couple of solos like the Fantasy in E flat, Barra, and Hugh solo de concert, I think. But the next year, things kind of took off a little bit more. I won first chair in the wind ensemble with the top band, and also principal in the orchestra. I played in a brass quintet, and I played. I started to get more jobs, and I won second trumpet with the Terre Haute Symphony at the beginning of the year, that season too. It was an interesting year because it was the first. They were in the process of hiring a new conductor. The conductor for the previous 20 or 25 years had just retired, and so everybody was doing a big blockbuster concert. So from the very beginning, we played the first season. We played Pines of Rome and Pictures in an Exhibition and the Firebird, and
And that was just the first half of the concert.
Right, exactly. It was one of the most memorable concerts in Terre Haute was Orsina Smith, who teaches orchestra at DePaul, was the assistant conductor for a while after that, and he did a concert where we played Candide Overture and symphonic dances from West Side Story on the first half, and Copland 3 on the second half.
Oh my gosh!
I know. That's
brutal.
So I played first trumpet on the Bernstein, and I played second trumpet on and Dalvin played first on the Copland. That was.
It's funny. You mentioned brass quintet, and if you think about the year, give me an idea what you're talking here.
This would have been 76, maybe.
Because even at that point, brass quintets, that was a new thing.
Pretty much,
relatively new.
Relatively
and the
new.
amount of repertoire available was limited.
Yeah, a lot less. On my recitals, I did recitals my sophomore and junior and senior years, and they at the Trumpet Guild used to print your recital programs in the journals. So my recitals programs are in the Trumpet Guild journals, or at least a couple of them are. I shared a recital my sophomore year, and I believe I played. We played the Hummel Concerto and the Hindemith Sonata, and I don't remember what all, I think. But we played the Vivaldi Concerto for two trumpets. I shared the recital with another student. And
sounds like you're getting exposure to a lot of good repertoire.
A lot of things. But we often would include a brass quintet. My senior year, I went to school at the same time as Larry Bird was at Indiana State, okay? So my senior year, my senior recital, I was playing, let's see what was on that program. The Stevens Sonata, and I think the Nellie Bell Golden Concerto, which isn't done very much. Maybe I might have been doing the Telemann on piccolo or something. But anyway, we ended the end of the program was the quintet by Malcolm Arnold.
Oh, sure.
So actually, Terry Aveglaman was playing in that group. And and she played in the basketball band. I wasn't playing in the basketball band at that time. I subbed a couple times, but my recital was scheduled the weekend of the Final Four.
Oh, no.
And so I had a brass quintet together of students, and all the students except for Terry went to Utah to play with the basketball band. So fortunately, faculty members stepped in and played the Malcolm Arnold on my recital, and it was good. But
it's either Larry Bird on one hand or Alan Miller on the other.
Right.
It's like, you lost out, unfortunately.
Exactly. Yeah, he was pretty good.
Yeah.
It was always fun to watch, and it was an exciting time for that too.
So I want to move ahead just a little bit. Did you do a master's degree anywhere?
I did not.
Did you study with anyone following Dalvin Boone?
Lots of people. I had lessons with Chappie after that, Marvin Perry, and the principal with Indianapolis for
41 years.
Yeah, 41 years. So I had lessons with him. I also had some lessons with a lot of different people. Let's see, Phil Collins, Charlie Geyer.
Now, where was Charlie at this point?
He was at Northwestern. He was at Northwestern. This is a little later.
So still accessible in Indianapolis.
And I've always felt like I would go take lessons from time to time with a lot of different people. But when I was in college, going back to that experience, like Symphonia at our school would sponsor a jazz festival, and we'd have great guests. Vinnie DiMartino came one year and was a trumpet guest, but they would have 4 guests on the concert. Mm-hmm. The next year, Dave Stahl came, a great lead trumpet player. But every year there would also be they had a contemporary music festival where the Indianapolis Symphony would come and be in residence for a week and play new music, and sometimes we would get to play along. Like there was some piece for jazz ensemble, orchestra, and rock ensemble that we played. Mm-hmm. So a whole bunch of different things like that. And then later in the year, there was always like a major composer that would come to campus, and we'd do a concert with them. Mm-hmm. So Carol Husa came one year, and we did the Divertimento for brass and music for Prague, mm-hmm. which was...
Did you do that with band or orchestra?
We did it with band, the music for Prague. And that was a significant concert for me because I didn't understand the music when we were practicing it before he got there. And it was like, I really didn't care for it much. Mm-hmm. But after performing it, it was like really meaningful, and I understood and I got it,
That's some really challenging playing too. Well, regardless of whether it's the orchestra, trumpet part, or the band, but the band part I think is...
absolutely, it is. And then I think Paul Creston came the next year, and
was Frederick Fennell coming out at that point and doing those recordings?
No, that was a little bit later. Mm-hmm. That was after John Boyd became the band director there, which was later on. George Grush was the band director when I was.
Were you part of any of those recordings?
I'm part of almost all of them, or maybe all of them that were done by. It started as a faculty wind ensemble at Indiana State, and then it grew into Philharmonia Alvin, which John Boyd led, and Frederick Fennell. Mm-hmm. And we made maybe about a half dozen recordings. Mm-hmm. And we also traveled to a WASB convention in San Luis Obispo, California, which was terrific. We played new music, and it was pretty challenging. We made some really difficult recordings. I mean, one time we did a recording that was only released, I think, in Asia, and wow, I mean, it had some. I felt like I had to sound like Louis Armstrong on one piece and try to sound like Adolph Hirschfeld on the next piece and try to sound like, whoever, Freddie Hubbard on the next thing,
Right.
It was, something. But
okay, we're gonna.
and then I'm sorry, I'll keep going with
please.
this because Aaron Copeland came my senior year.
Wow.
And so I was fortunate enough again to get to play. We played Billy the Kid and Lincoln Portrait, and one ensemble played Emblems, and maybe there might have been something else. But
did you understand who he was? I mean,
oh, absolutely. He was 80 years old, I think, at the time. He lived another 10 years, but 80 years old, and he was well known at the time, and he had conducted the New York Philharmonic the week before, and so I think I played well on the concert, and so it was a wonderful experience also. So.
Well, and you've had a lot of experiences like that, continuing with the ISO and the Indianapolis Chamber Orchestra, and this is not where I was wanting to head, but I do want to talk about the musical atmosphere around Indianapolis. It's, I think, pretty alive and very eclectic, to say the least. I mean, I know there's even a bluegrass movement.
Oh yeah.
In Indianapolis, and
it's pretty amazing, because for a city the size of it, I think we're somewhat fortunate as trumpet players being here because you can play a variety of music. I mean, in some larger cities, I think players have it's more difficult for a player to play, an orchestra gig and also be one of the jazz players, or
right.
Like New York City probably has, the best blues trumpet player in the world may live in New York City, and but so I'm probably not going to get a job playing with a blues band in New York City, but we may get a job playing with a blues band here from time to time or something,
Sure.
So, and he's probably not going to get a job with a brass quintet,
right.
Or whatever. So, so you can be a little bit of a jack of all trades as regarding playing when you're in a moderately sized city, I believe. But that's also awesome because, I've gotten to play with the best orchestral musicians here, the best band players here, the best rock musicians here, the best jazz musicians here. It's pretty special.
And it's a good vibe.
It is. Everybody seems to get along well. It has respect for each other, and I think it goes back to earlier players leaving a nice legacy. Larry Wiseman was a terrific mentor.
I was so grateful to get to meet him and work with him a little bit before he passed.
Unbelievable, terrific mentor for the young players around here about how not only how you should play, but how you should play along with everybody else. And that's it was special. And he died in 2003, but I several times a year people talk about Larry.
Sure.
His legacy. I mean, it comes up on a lot of gigs.
Yeah.
He was a terrific player and a better person. But so really enjoyed that.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about your teaching.
Okay.
You currently teach at Butler.
Mm-hmm.
Where did you first? Was it a single private student, or did you pick up an adjunct position somewhere?
Okay, so I taught at music stores and for a number of years because that's all that was available for a while to me. Anyway, then I had worked some other jobs. I worked some day jobs and so forth during time, and I would always played a lot of gigs. But then I decided I wanted to play and teach full time, so I started teaching in schools during the day, and I did that in some schools in Lawrence Township and in Greenwood and in different places. fairly soon after that, I subbed a little bit for Jim Edison when he was teaching here at UIndy. And then Jim had a stroke and decided to retire. And so I took over the job here about a year later, maybe. So this is about 20 years ago. They had the opening at Butler for a teacher. And I auditioned for that and taught some trial lessons and things like that. And they hired me. And
you think about that evolution from that first lesson you had maybe taught in a music store to where you are now. How do you think your teaching style has changed?
Well, I mean, as I've learned more and more about playing, I think I've been able to relate that to my students. I mean, sometimes I think going to take a lesson, like, I'd go take a lesson with someone and it would fire me up, to be a better teacher, because it would just remind me of things and how I need to, like I said, I've never been one that needed to be motivated, but obviously we all run into students who need some motivation, and some who don't, I mean, speaking as a motivation, I'd spend a lot of time going to the library at Indiana State or whatever, or wherever. I taught lessons at Page's Music in Terre Haute while I was in college, and they had a large library of music that you could just go through at that time. You can't do that anymore because everything's on the internet.
Right.
But I could find out about all sorts of methods and things like that way, rather than looking at a YouTube video. But anyway, so how it's changed is, I think my attitude about taking the student from where they are and helping them improve from that hasn't changed really. And I don't necessarily believe that there's one path, a singular path to get to being a great player.
Even though there are fundamentals that everyone should,
absolutely,
and certain standards that everyone should achieve.
Absolutely, I definitely agree with that. But sometimes something that you'll use with one student doesn't necessarily work with all your students.
Right.
And so I try to do my best to figure out how I can help a student make the most progress the most quickly or whatever.
Do you find any of your previous teachers coming through in your teaching from time to time?
Sometimes, yeah. I mean, all of them from time to time, and just, and their teachers, I mean, because some of my teachers, some of them study with Sidney Mears, some of them study with Haskell Sexton, some of them study with Will Scarlett, some study with Arnold Jacobs, some study with Herseth, and others, I don't know even what the family tree is there, but it all comes together. Some of them study with James Stamp or somebody who followed James Stamp or whatever. So all those, another teacher I should mention is Robert Birch. He was solo cornetist with the Navy band, and he taught while Dalvin was on sabbatical at ISU, and he introduced me to more Stamp and Schlossberg stuff, and that proved to be pretty vital. So anyway, but with some students, I will go with Stamp, or John Daniel has a terrific book too that with a lot about fundamentals. So I'll use some of his teachings in my teaching. The Bill Adams teaching, I think sometimes many students benefit greatly from having a school of thought in their, in their teachers and them being a consistent way of teaching. But I think a lot of those teachers were way more flexible than some people give them credit for being.
Well, it's funny you say that because there's a podcast I listen to that features a lot of Bill Adams students.
Mm-hmm.
And they would all say that Mr. Adam would tailor that routine, which, a lot of people think about the Adam routine as being a fixed thing. And they would all say, no, once you get past the lead pipe buzzing, things might take a completely different path.
And I think, if you look back, you can see the connection between, Maggio in his teaching, and I'm almost positive that Stamp studied some with Maggio, and then Stamp also studied with Schlossberg, and Schlossberg was Stamp's teacher and Vacchiano's teacher, and Schlossberg, in his method, was put together by Friedstadt. It's not really, number 80. I think I heard Tom Stevens talk about this because he studied with Stamp and with Vacchiano both. And he said that number 80 in there is marked mezzo forte. It's an arpeggio exercise, and this is Schlossberg book. Mm-hmm. He said that in the copy that he had for Vacchiano, it was marked pianissimo, and in the copy he had for Stamp, it was marked fortissimo, because they were each working on what was difficult for them. Mm-hmm. They weren't working on, it's okay to play at mezzo forte, but just know that any exercise that you play isn't limited by how it's marked. Mm-hmm. As a matter of fact, it's a good idea to use, Rob McGregor, I don't know if you're familiar with his.
Oh, the orchestral books.
But using those principles that Rob Roy uses of how to change things up to free yourself from habits. You're never going to lose a habit. It's a habit.
You can replace it with a better one.
You can replace it with a better one, and that helps you get to that point where you can replace it with a better habit. Exactly.
Yeah, and I think a lot of those McGregor books, they make the original excerpt exponentially more difficult, so that by the time you come back to the original, it's like, hey, this is not so hard.
It's not so hard. Exactly. Yeah, those are terrific. So I use that. I try to use that. I try to give my students tools so they'll be able to teach themselves. Mm-hmm. Another thing is I try to, over the time that they study with me, give them a few different approaches to playing too, because I've witnessed some players who maybe later in their lives experienced an injury or something like that, and when they come back, they're not exactly able to do it the way they did it the first time, and they have to find a different way to get there. And fortunately, most of them do, make it back to a high level of playing. But like I say, generally it's a different path. Otherwise, I think it's, again, very important to use the tools that we have now with our phones and things like that. You can use a terrific recording device that is in your pocket, and using that, deciding what you're going to play.
Well, and so many apps that you can
so
have.
Many apps.
So there's no excuse not to have a metronome, a tuner, a drone generating device, a recorder. Yeah. We used to have all of those things, and even a mirror, because you can use your iPhone or an iPad to actually watch yourself while you're doing that. So, but isn't it interesting though that students still find excuses to?
Oh, it is. Yeah.
But I think that's just a natural.
And sometimes you can learn from things that aren't even related to trumpet playing. Like The Inner Game of Tennis, I think, is a terrific book, and about how we learn and how we do things and how we operate. And there is an inner game of music, and I think Barry Green's Barry Green that wrote that.
I think that's right.
I think he's a wonderful man, and I read that book, and I wouldn't recommend reading that book because I think you can get more out of it by reading The Inner Game of Tennis and relating it to the way you want on your own, rather than needing that step in between or whatever. But I'd recommend his other books.
Well, the amount of resources we have and accessibility to method books is as great as it's ever been.
Yeah.
You don't have to go to a library. All you do is you open up the internet, and a lot of times now you can download some things instantly and have that obscure text, that had been out of publication and you thought you'd never see again. Let's talk about players that you listen to and maybe some that inspire you. Even though you said you're pretty self-motivated,
Sure.
Are there players that
absolutely
that make you think, boy, I want to learn to do that? And then the second part of that question is, who do you steer your students towards? Who do you have them listen to?
Yeah, well, I mean, it depends on the kind of music that, obviously we've talked about trumpet being involved in all kinds of music. I love to listen to Ole Edvard Antonsen. He's a fantastic.
It's exquisite playing.
It's amazing,
His cornet sound is just
just everything he does, So and sometimes he posts some things on Facebook. It's just like he's just practicing. He's just messing around, and it's like just incredible playing. Håkan Hardenberger, another great player as far as soloists go. I mean, Wynton's recordings when he was doing more of that thing are all terrific. Going back to Maurice Andre and stuff, you can still listen to those things and they're still really good.
Well, his articulation on the piccolo trumpets is
it's amazing.
The most amazing thing to listen to.
And then just the other day, Conrad and I played the Vivaldi concerto at a church, and I used my F trumpet because I don't get to use it very often. But it reminded me, and it works really well for that, So it reminded me of listening to Ralph Schmedvig play with the Empire Brass because he used the G trumpet or G or F trumpet or something a lot, and that sound is just a little bit bigger than a piccolo sound, but bright and brilliant, and just a beautiful sound. So listening to that sort of thing, I enjoy. As far as lead playing goes, it's hard to beat Wayne Bergeron or going back to Snooky or we had a great example with Larry Wiseman here. They're, and I also feel lucky because I get to listen to great players just when I go to work. Every day. I heard someone say Adolf Hirschfeld had an advantage because Bud got to hear Bud the day before, and so he always remembered how Bud sounded.
Right.
But anyway, but I get to work with John Rommel and Joey Tartell and Ed Cord and you and Dan Gosling and all the guys in the orchestra, Conrad and Chappie, all these guys, terrific players, and to get to hear them play and and I failed to mention way too many players there.
Dan Galando might be one who's like,
Dan
hey, wait a
Galando,
second.
right? Yeah, exactly, Dan Galando. But
what? I'll edit his name into that original list.
Thanks. Thanks. But I could go on and list a lot more. But anyway, I learn a lot from those folks, just hearing them play, and sometimes we talk about, what is going on with students, or
it's funny because we know each other really well, and I say we, not just you and I,
Sure.
but
The whole
the
community.
people.
Right.
That discussion of what mouthpiece do you play we had that discussion, right? And so we can get on to more meaningful
Except for Bob.
things. Oh, right.
Bob Wood is still changing mouthpieces.
That's right.
Between the first half and the second half right now. But, he played the same mouthpiece for...
I'm going to just double check. We got a few minutes left on there. So you're talking about changing mouthpieces, Bob.
Yeah, Bob Wood. He played the same mouthpiece, I think, for 20-some years. And then he started experimenting with things. And he's a great player.
Yeah.
So, but he's frequently changing now anyway. And so it's enjoyable to observe his
yeah. Well, we all have our
journey.
quirks.
We do.
Yeah.
We do. I have lots of them.
Yeah. So maybe a word of wisdom for younger players, a word of advice for them.
I would say be honest with yourself about where you are. Listen to as much music as you can with the trumpet. Record yourself often. When you listen back, then be the judge. Always be in the moment when you play. Practice like you're performing. Give yourself that audience of the recording device, and don't be judgmental. Don't think about how you're doing. Think only about the music. If you're thinking in words, you're not doing it right. Think about the sound of the music. When I'm teaching, I try to let hopefully the kids learn that when you're looking at a piece of music, that just like when you read a word, you get an image of what that word means to you. Mm-hmm. You need to get an image of what that those notes on the page sound to you, and that's what you produce through the instrument.
Wow, that's terrific.
Yeah,
I think I might actually start doing that. No, I'm not being coy about that. I think that's a great way to think about it.
Because that's what we're doing. Mm-hmm. When we've increased our vocabulary over the years in our reading, so we don't even look at the individual letters of words anymore. We shouldn't be looking at the individual notes. They're all important. They're all, like, every letter is important, right? Because you put a different letter in a word, changes it completely.
Absolutely.
And so every note is important, but you don't read every note. You get the concept of exactly how it sounds, and the better you know the definition of a word, or the better you know how something's going to sound in your head, the more likely you are to be able to play it well.
Mm-hmm. And communicate that effectively to your audience.
And absolutely. Mm-hmm. Yeah, thanks for helping me out there.
Well, great minds work together. Exactly. Alan, thank you so much for everything you've offered today, and look forward to playing many more gigs and hearing you play. I love sitting in the audience and hearing you play too.
Well, thank you.
Thanks.
I appreciate that.
Thank you again for listening to today's interview. I hope you enjoyed your time here, and please come back for more interviews. Be sure to share the news of this podcast with friends and colleagues, and give me a rating on whatever platform you get your podcasts from. And one more reminder that you can sign up to receive news via email regarding new episodes, merchandise, and more by going to powellmusic.net and clicking on the subscribe to newsletter link. Thanks again for listening, and I hope you come back for more great interviews.